CashFlow Diary Podcast, episode 240.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the CashFlow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other CashFlow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
Hello out there. Glad that you are here. We are going to continue our series on the 8 things to give up because here's what I know. Repeating these things and repeating this series is only going to help you as the year goes because you made a number of decisions just a few short weeks ago. You always are in the process of making decisions, but here's the thing. You're trying to keep them. And sometimes when we do that, other things get in the way, namely ourselves. And we've been talking about 8 things to give up. 8 things to give up. If you've missed some of the prior episodes, the 8 things are doubting yourself, negative thinking, fear of failure, criticizing others, negative self-talk, procrastination, fear of success, and then people pleasing. So today we're going to be hitting on the negative self-talk. And again, many of you, you're probably very familiar with that negative self-talk. In fact, if you've listened to a number of the prior episodes, oftentimes near the end when I'm interviewing someone, I'm always asking them to say something to that person who's hearing that voice, that voice in the back of your head that is often letting you know what you can't do and how you won't make it and all the things that you are missing in order to be as awesome as you know you could be if you were just but this, that, or the other. Here's the point. That voice can get in the way. Now, the thing to understand is that when it comes to thinking in and of itself, it's actually a skill, which is kind of cool because that means there's hope for you. There's hope for me. And like all skills, each of us have some of it naturally. So let me repeat that just to make sure that you hear what I am saying. Thinking is a skill. And like all skills, each of us have some of it naturally. So say you wanted to learn to juggle. Yes, today, right now, you may not be able to. I remember I taught myself how to juggle because as you guys may not know, but right after high school, I got burned on my left leg and lost a significant portion of my calf muscle. And I spent what would have been that fall semester, instead of going to college, I was actually in the hospital. And I was on a hospital bed for a very, very long time, and I didn't want to eat the fruit, so I started juggling with it. Yes. And I just learned to take the fruit and juggle with it, because when you are bedridden and you can't really walk and can't go anywhere, and you're like, okay, cool. It's not like you had I didn't have an iPad, iPhone, or any sort of mobile device at that particular time. And if you've ever been in a military hospital, they're not known for their comfort. So I think, if I remember correctly, I was listening to Michael Jackson and learning to juggle the majority of the time in between therapy sessions. But juggling's a skill, like any other skill. And you can decide at any moment to pick up that skill. Any skill you'd like. You say, hey, I want to learn a language. Great. You can learn any language you want at any particular time. In fact, one of our CashFlow Diary community members, he's an American that lives overseas, and I think he speaks 5 languages. That's like just for fun for him, yes, it's part of his job now, but he speaks 5 languages. He just continues to perfect them in various different ways. And that's pretty cool, I think. We can all choose to learn a new skill, thinking being one of them. Now, the question becomes, if thinking, and more importantly, learning to think positively, intentionally, being the skill set that we're talking about, because negative thinking is definitely there. And what we're trying to figure out is, how do we give that up? Well, the question becomes, are we going to do the work to get better at it? You say, hey, I want to put on 10 pounds of muscle. Great. Are you going to do the correct dietary requirements and actually go to the gym and lift weights or exercise in the way that you should? And if you're not going to do that, then why torture yourself with the thought that, hey, one day I'm going to be that? Why torture yourself? In fact, if you say to yourself, I want to earn more money, I'm finally going to get real estate done, I'm building my business, gosh darn it. And guess what? Business is a skill. So you can totally make that decision. I give you permission to do so right now. However, are you going to do the work to get better at it? Because that's really what it comes down to, is doing the work to get better at it. More importantly, a decision to do said work. And that's where all of this change begins. It starts right there with a decision. Here's the cool thing. You don't need 12 steps to make a decision. You can decide right now, as this particular episode is playing right now in your ear, as you're washing dishes, running on that treadmill, doing whatever it is that you're doing right now, driving to work, wishing that you weren't driving to work. You can make that decision. Now, that doesn't mean just turn around and go home. All right. So just in case, I want to be very, very clear, unless you are in that position where, you know what, darn it, I can turn around and go home. Great. Do that. The key thing, though, is to understand the word decision. Decision meaning to cut. So that's part of it. But you also are familiar with many different types of cut. There's a precision, incision, decision. That means you can cut before, you can cut into, you can cut after or behind. And the key thing to understand is, when you are making a decision, you are ending options. You are ending the option for anything other than what you are deciding, choosing to move toward. For example, let's say that you're going to go to the movies. You decide that, hey, after some polite conversation with you and your significant other and friends, you finally figure out which movie and what time and what theater. And then it's 3:45 p.m., 15:45 hours. Let's pretend that you now know that. And say you follow through with that decision. By virtue of the fact of the limitations of time, physics, and space, at 15:45 hours or 3:45 p.m., you have cut off the option of watching any other movie at that same time. You can't be, quote unquote, in two places at once. See, this is the essence of making a decision. You've cut off the other options. There aren't other things that you will be doing. You are choosing, this is going to be how I'm going to invest this particular set of time that I have currently been allotted. For example, you are listening to this episode right now. By default means you are not listening to something else. Now, you may be doing something else, but you're not listening to something else at this particular moment. And that's a decision. And you keep making that decision every time you listen to the next episode. And some of you are going to go back and listen to the prior ones in this particular series. And that's great. See, one of the things that humans, we don't want to do is we don't want to miss out on something. And because we don't want to miss out on something, sometimes making a decision gives us that anxietous feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm going to miss out on something. So if we can delay making that decision, we absolutely will, which is why DVRs and TiVo are so popular. Because now you don't have to decide. Something as simple as what to watch. You have no need to make a choice. The challenge with that is that, well, it weakens your decision-making muscle. One of the most important skill sets that you and your team and your business requires, your customers are hoping you will make a decision, i.e., this is what we stand for. This is what we do. This is what we deliver. We do cash flow. We don't do fixing and flipping. Why? Because we do cash flow. Period. And that's what we talk about. And that was a decision. So the question becomes, is now that you're aware, your decision-making muscle might not be as strong as you'd like, or more importantly, you've got to learn to exercise your decision-making muscle as it requires or is related to your thinking. That by default means, guess what? You should begin to choose positive, supportive thought patterns. But Jay, what do I do when I'm interrupted? I'm in the middle of trying to do something great, and I think I know what I want to do, but I keep being interrupted by my brain, and all of these negative thoughts come to my head. I get you. I have a lot of experience with dealing with this. A lot. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some of the things that I use that I believe will help you, because, you got to have a number of tools in your tool belt in order to make you think like you want to think and be able to stop the presses and go in a completely different direction. For example, one of those things, and probably the most frequent, is I just go pray. I've got some routes around my house. I've got a 30-minute route. I got an hour route. I got a 2-hour route if I really, and if it gets really, really bad, I'm headed toward the beach. Meditation prayer, I think it works very, very well, especially for me while walking. Now, if you are anything like me, the idea of walking at the same time, it totally helps my brain move completely in a different way. And I don't really know why, but it changes the way that I think. Specifically, when walking, I like looking up or ahead. More importantly, just don't look at your feet. Don't be looking down. That totally interrupts those negative thoughts and puts me on a completely different track. Another thing that could help you that I know that I use is classical music. Interestingly enough, I may not be able to recognize all the pieces, but just for some reason, listening to it changes my thought patterns and allows it to flow towards more positive things that help and are supportive. Another one is instrumental music, specifically instrumental music you don't recognize. Now, that means by default, don't take the top 40 hits, get the instrumental version, and start singing on the lyrics. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about instrumental music you don't recognize. And so you can still like it, but don't recognize. It's just nice, soothing. This could be that smooth jazz. Instrumental is key to keep the words away. Another thing, I don't know if you guys know, but one of the things that I love to use are these white noise apps. There's a ton of them on, iPhones and iPads and all these other devices that we have these days. And I absolutely enjoy them because they drown out sometimes those thoughts that are nagging in the back of your head. They just drown them out. And for me personally, it's usually the water sounds, the nature, thunderstorms, birds, but by the way, absolutely none of those ticking clock things. Please, that will drive me nuts. I found that if I'm listening to someone else's thoughts, it's kind of hard to have mine. Keep going. So audiobooks have been one of my staples for quite some time. Now, for those of you who have taken advantage of the current web class that we have going on over at learninvestingnow.com. Just go over to learninvestingnow.com. If you stay that entire time, I give you access to a course called Cash Flow Foundations. Cash Flow Foundations. What it will teach you to do is to make an actual cash flow diary. And that becomes an artifact and device that you can use to help make sure that your brain, your mind is set towards your goals, the things that you want, and you invest way more time in connecting your emotions to the things that you do want and less time on the things that you don't. Another good one is just a flat routine. Have a routine. If you know that you go jogging, every day between 6:15 and 6:30 in the morning, or whatever it is, if you're a runner. Stick to your routine, especially when you don't feel like it, because oftentimes that routine habit will help those mental processes as well. One of those other ones, this one's sneaky, and it also helps you with productivity. It's called the Pomodoro technique. Basically, the premise is that you work in spurts, and it works very well for me. So, for example, there are times where I'll work for 25 minutes at a time, take a 5-minute break. 25 minutes at a time, take a 5-minute break. Kind of like when you go to the gym and you do sets. So I'll do 4 of those. And then at the end of the 4th one, I take a 30-minute break. The cool thing is that it allows me to trick myself into going, you know what? It's just 25 minutes. It's not going to be all day. And it avoids that I'm never going to get done with this feeling. Gives you that sense of accomplishment, helps you get that little shot that says, okay, one more step. I can do this. Especially when you're working on a big project. It's really, really important. You've heard me talk about this earlier also in the series. It's called the Success Journal. Just completely filling out every day. 5 reasons I am successful today are, once you have that device in your own handwriting or in your own words, it becomes a very, very powerful tool for changing the thoughts and interrupting those negative thoughts. If you let them run, they will destroy you. One of the cool ones, I think, is just to phone a friend. That's right. Call that lifeline. Phone a friend. And hopefully you have enough friends to where you can do this, or you have some sort of support group somewhere. And for those of you inside the Cashflow Diary community, you're always in the Facebook group and you see that happen there a lot. And then last but not least, so you say, Jay, okay, these are all great suggestions. None of them are for me. You got one more. I haven't forgotten, and you can do this one. And all you have to do is just call mom. Call your mom and tell her, hey, and ask her this very question. Hey, mom, are you proud of me? Now, that might be a little scary for some of you, but you get my point. Most moms, they're going to, not only are they going to answer that question, they're going to tell you why and all this other stuff, which could be a great, great thing, especially if you let them know, hey, I'm feeling a little down, having a string of negative thoughts. I just need to hear if you are proud of me. I did this one a couple of weeks ago. It was kind of cool because you never know what mom's going to say. Here's the thing. It takes absolutely, positively, unequivocally 0 effort to think a negative thought, and you already know that. In fact, if you've listened this far into this episode, you probably are a great practitioner of negative thinking easily. And now I'm asking you to take captive those thoughts, to interrupt them with all of the things that I've suggested just prior. Well, I also know that you're committed to improving in this area, and that's commendable. But I want to give you some things that you can understand how this shows itself in your business, because I know if you become aware, you'll be able to interrupt. Oftentimes we can think we're thinking, but not really be thinking. It seems to just come upon us, and we don't know that we're thinking unsupportive, i.e. negative thoughts that aren't pushing us forward and closer to the goal. So therefore, how can I become aware? Well, one of the things that I want to make sure that you are aware of is sustained patterns of negative thinking. They remove from you one of the most important things you need in order to become the person that you are looking to become, in order to do the things that you're looking to do, because it erodes your ability, my ability, everyone's ability to be confident. And, well, your confidence needs to be protected at all costs. Now, I'm not asking you to be prideful and unopen to like input and correction, and you're going to make a ton of mistakes. So listen to that. I'm just trying to get you to know that with eroded or destroyed confidence, you're going to be completely unprepared and obliterated at the negotiating table. I mean, it's incredibly difficult to ask for the sale and actually get a yes without confidence. And you might as well forget about trying to raise capital, because it's just not going to happen. I mean, it's just not going to happen. These negative thoughts sit there like little seeds and they grow and they germinate. And every time you keep thinking about them, ruminating on them, they just grow and they get stronger and stronger and stronger. And I'm hoping that you're brave enough to begin to do the work. You're like, Jay, I've never listened to classical music. Great. Go get Spotify, make classical music happen. Get some instrumental music. Get the white noise app. A lot of this stuff is free if you would but use them, because as soon as you begin and remove this negative thinking and begin to replace it with audiobooks and podcasts and praying and meditation and walking and your success journal, you will begin to see yourself take more action towards the direction of the things that you want than you probably have ever done in your past. See, getting your business done, doing real estate, writing the offers and making these things happen, it's not overly complicated. We've talked about this. You find a property, you find a seller who's got a problem, you talk to them, you write them an offer. They say yes or no. They say no, write another offer. They say no, write another offer. And you keep doing that till someone says yes. When they say yes, you open up escrow, you close it, and you move forward. And if you need money, you raise capital in the middle. It's not complicated. The steps are clear. It's learning to become the person who can go through those steps, who can hear the no, who can talk to individuals who have problems and help them to understand that, hey, I got a solution and I can solve your challenge. That's what makes us uncommon. That's what you get rewarded for, is being able to solve somebody else's problem. And to do that, you must have supportive, positive thoughts. You got to interrupt them and replace them as well. But just like I said at the top, thinking, it's a skill. And just so that you know, you're not supposed to have it already. Not yet, anyway. And please remember this, just like every other skill. Okay. I mean, yeah, you got your, you got your Pop Warner and amateur leagues. And then you eventually get to, junior high school and intermediate school and collegiate and intramurals. And eventually maybe you're so good, you become an Olympic thinker, and that's awesome. Or even pro. That's great. But please remember this. Every master, and I mean every one of them, anyone you currently consider to be excellent at something, every master was once a disaster. Now go write that offer. It's been fun talking to you today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.